Third year, so I get an internship at Google. Boom, 150K first month. Opportunities will always show up, and if you don't grab that opportunity, then you might not find another opportunity. You also realize that, look, this is not my job, this is not my company, it's not my dad's company. So one day it's gonna go. So you start being a bit more frugal with your money. Black tax is something that I think you need to understand how to manage it. Because if you don't manage it in time, it's gonna mess you up. Yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Financially Incorrect. Last week, we had a break. I was unwell, so we didn't shoot anything. But this week we're back. Remember, Financially Incorrect is a podcast sponsored by FXpressa, who are on a road to educate 1 million people on financial literacy. Remember to check them out. Their links are going to be in the episode description box. Please check them out, see what they're up to, learn about trading, and find out about different ways that you can diversify your investments. Today, we have, I haven't met him before, but I was supposed to meet him like 2-3 months ago on a totally different field. We were supposed to look at potentially working together. His name is Victor Mutua, and I've forgotten the third one.
Just add NGA.
Jesus.
Mutua, right?
Mutua, yeah.
Yes.
Victor Mutua,
Say it with a
who
cow
is,
accent.
I say it's a cow accent. I don't have that one, but
Mutua.
he's ex
But yeah, sure. Continue.
ex YouTube, ex Google, ex TikTok, and now he's a team principal at Noga Sports. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good.
All right, so let's start. How did you get to YouTube? Because you told me you started working for Google at 19. Was it 19 or 18?
It should be 19 because I remember that time they're looking
Yeah.
for student ambassadors around the continent and across the world. And so you're lucky enough to be, I think, around among the 130 people across the different countries in the continent to help go and understand the students and also give them feedback and do activation. So I think there used to be a new product called Google for Education. So you'd maybe do fun events, you do symposiums, you'd go ahead to even educate high school students. So it was such a great opportunity to start working and get exposed to the big tech at that time. Yeah.
So before we started this conversation, you actually, when you're asking me what exactly is this podcast about, and I said it's about money journeys and careers, and you said, of course, because that's where people get their money. So did you always work or get into your field of work for money?
Oh, for money?
Yeah, for money. Was money the key driver and motivating factor for the different companies that you worked for?
Not really. I think it was easier for me, based out of my upbringing, to join tech, because I remember my dad introducing me to all these things when I was a bit younger. And so naturally for me was to gear myself towards tech, training things and all that. So for me, I don't think it was about money. If I wanted to get money, I'd probably be selling things, maybe be a thief. You know?
Should be selling things, or maybe be a thief,
Yeah,
if you
because
wanted.
if you wanted money. Because that's
What
the
kind of
easiest
thief?
way.
Because in my head I have like a petty burglar, when you
No,
say
that's a burglar.
or be a thief. So what do you mean? Or do
I
you
think
mean
I'm smart enough to be
like a politician?
To be a proper thief. A politician is a politician a thief though? Some are, yeah. But ideally, I'll be a thief if I needed money.
Yeah.
And that's where you find people. If you're driven by money, that's where you find corruption. That's where you find people being sacked. That's where you find people like the guys at F Bank fight the guy. What's the billionaire guy for FXT or something? FTX, yeah. So if it's for money, then you find yourself in shitty waters. But then I don't think it was for money for me. Yeah.
You say your dad introduced you to tech.
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What? How?
I remember when I was younger, I'd be given these electronic devices to kind of fix. A radio would be brought at home and they'd open it and then I wouldn't be punished. I remember being given a drawing board done that engineers use with their T-square, and then the idea was to come and start sketching all these circuits. And so I remember that time being introduced to tech slowly. We didn't have this software, it was more hardware side of things. I think growing up, I found myself, even in high school, doing computer and electricity as a subject, and then going to uni and selecting something that was towards tech, So that's how I found myself in the tech ecosystem.
What was money like in the house?
In the house, money.
Yeah.
I grew up in a very, very diverse background because my mom comes from Western Kenya, my dad comes from Eastern Kenya. My grandfathers, both of them that I spent a lot of time with, came from different backgrounds. So from my dad's side, my grandfather was a trader. So I remember him doing a lot of businesses, from selling hides and seek. We had so many butcheries in Ukambani. We had businesses doing agriculture. I remember We also had a big shop in different places in Ukambani. But on the other side, my grandfather was a teacher, was in the army. And so being brought up in that system where my parents are closer to their parents, and it's a bit different. Money was not talked about all the time, but I could see a lot of influences in terms of how my parents would hustle and how my grandparents would hustle and see how they can get an extra amount of money. While my parents, my mom and dad, were employed by the government, they always had these side hustles. We did a lot of farming. We did a lot of, I think my dad used to trade with minerals as much as he was employed by the government. In Western Kenya, where my mom comes from, they were predominantly employees of the government because my grandmother was in the Ministry of Health, focused on reproductive health, and my grandfather, as I've mentioned, was in the army and as a teacher. So money came differently, but we never lacked anything, you know. But I could see a lot of extra value being brought in terms of doing businesses, yeah.
Oh, okay. Question. When you look at what your parents were doing, because you said they were civil servants essentially and had lots of side businesses, did you, or now looking back, do you feel like they didn't have enough, whatever they were getting from their salary, it wasn't enough income for whatever life they wanted to lead or live with you? Or was it more, just being an entrepreneurial spirit, so to speak? Like, what was the driver beyond having, quote unquote, multiple jobs?
And incomes, I believe it's because of the culture. Because naturally you need to provide, you need to be hustling, you'll never have sufficient money. So I believe for my parents, it was more of, let me get this extra money because I'm able to, I have extra time. And I need to make sure that us as the kids are doing really well and they never lack. So I think it was out of need to make sure that they diversify their income and also because of security. Because I remember when I was young, I think some of my dad's colleagues were retrenched. It was a bad situation for them. But at the same time, you've seen things like COVID come in recent times when you're adults. And if you didn't have an extra side hustle, then you find yourself not sufficient. So I believe it was out of need that they had to do extra side hustles.
Yeah. Are you only child or did you have siblings?
Where? You should never ask an African that question. But anyway, look, I'm the firstborn in a family of three.
Three?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have two younger sisters.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you start handling money in the context of your nuclear family before you became an adult? Like, when did you start interacting with money and dealing with money?
The year of the Lord, 2003. I remember we went to Shags and as I told you, my dad was a farmer at the same time. And so I remember he gave me a small parcel of land, I think it was 9 years. And so I remember employing my cousins and telling them, look, when I'm going back to boarding school, please take care of my small farm and then I'm going to pay you later. So I remember paying my cousins some few cents that my dad has given me for savings. And then when I came back, I found them, they have sort of made sure the crops have grown, and then I'd sell maybe half a sack of maize or maybe half a sack of beans to my dad. And so I started doing internal money, rather earning of money from some of those side hustles. Yeah, that was a long time ago as a kid.
And is that something that your sisters also had, or I guess when they got, because you said you were 9 when he's giving you this parcel of land.
Yeah.
And when he gave it to you, is he giving you instructions? Is he telling you, I want you to plant this and that, or this is what I want you to do with this piece of land? Or was it just like, here is a piece of land, like a gift?
Naturally, you're brought up in a farm. So when you close schools over the weekends, you're in the farm. And so the only thing you know is irrigation, planting, harvesting, doing all these things that in the farm are there. And so you find some extra seedlings there, rather some extra seeds there. You want to try out your own things. And you're going back to school and you know you want to do something. So you ask your cousins to do something for you, then you pay them, then you sell back to your dad. So I think it's because we had plenty of things in the farm to try out. Yeah.
So it wasn't like express instruction. It wasn't like he wanted you to do this with this piece of land.
Nope, nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did your sisters do the same thing?
My sister is 6 years younger, so they were quite...
When they got to the same age, when they got to about, I guess, 9 or 10, were they, afforded the same thing, or did they do the same thing?
No, this is where the shift comes in because my dad died later, 1 year
later.
Oh,
my apologies.
Which means that these are kids, so everything changes now. So you're 10, you're the firstborn, you're in boarding school, your dad is, boom, gone. And then everything changes. You change schools, you change where you're living at. Everything changes, literally. And that's it.
And so what? And I'm assuming. I mean, if you come from a 2-income household and now you're in a 1-income household, what kind of shift, or what does that do for your understanding of money and your understanding of, I guess, trying to make enough? Yeah.
If you have a bottle of water that's full, right, and we have 2 people, and that bottle of water is being filled by those 2 people, and it's being drunk by maybe the entire household, the entire room here. It means that next time, when half of it is gone, the rest of the people, their water intake goes down, right? So same thing to what happens when you're coming from a 2-income household. It means that everything goes down by at least 50%. So it means that your mom has to work extra hard to pay the school fee. So for you to live in the same standard, it means also maybe having relatives to come on board and support you. So I think there was that cash shift that came in, and it meant that we don't have enough money like we used to have. It means that the farm that we had that was giving us extra money is no longer there. It means that the few minerals that my dad was selling is no longer there. So it shrinks everything, and life changes.
And is that an understanding that you came to later, retrospectively, or at the time, did you understand it? Like, were you upset with the change of school, or were you frustrated with the fact that you couldn't live the life that you were living before, or is something you ultimately just understood?
So initially I was cautioned because my uncles and my aunts were there maybe for the first few months, until at some point I realized, look, wait a minute, I'm from a really nice boarding school, a Catholic school, and I'm being taken to shags. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So ideally everything changes completely. But then in retrospect, you realize, so the reason why I was shifted from one school or maybe from this kind of life to the other life, it's because of the shrinkage in terms of income, Yeah.
But at the time, it wasn't like you didn't like what you, maybe a question is, did you make peace with it? Like, were you at peace with it, or was it something that frustrated you as a child?
Yeah, I didn't see anything wrong until I was in high school.
So when you got to high school is when you're like, okay.
Oh, shoot. Why am I in this high school? If my dad was here, I'm sure I wouldn't be here.
Yeah.
If my dad was here, I am sure things would have been different. So it hits you later, not immediately.
Okay, interesting. Okay. So go to high school. Then what happens after high school? How do you get to working at YouTube? Because you told me you started working at YouTube at about 18, 19, if I'm not wrong.
No, this is Google, right?
And Google, sorry, Google. Yeah.
Still, YouTube and Google is
same thing.
Still owned by Google. So this was, I think in uni, I was a curious kid again, right? So from primary school going to high school, I was very curious. I remember, I think I was one of the top ones in the Kenya Science. It's Kenya Science Congress, something, Kenya Secondary School Science Congress, one of the top students. I remember making some really cool devices and gadgets. And then I moved to uni, and then Google is coming to the country. Microsoft is setting up everything here. IBM is in town. And I spent a lot of time watching TV after high school. Then people like Larry Madowo and Dan Mwangi are showing these, and TV was such a cool TV. So I remember watching a lot of tech shows. I remember reading a lot on TechCrunch and so many publications. Everybody was just talking about tech. So I became curious, and I go to this uni in Kenya. It's called Strathmore. So Strathmore, you go there and you find Google is setting up an office there. Microsoft has just sponsored an entire lab. You can see students at Strath maybe coding. You can see them talking about Android. And then I think there was like a mini revolution at that time. People like Dorothy Oko, currently at Google, used to work at Nokia, and then I think they talked to the government, and then I think the smartphone taxes were reduced. So there's a lot of things happening
Movement,
in tech.
yeah.
So naturally, you get yourself into tech.
Yeah.
Now, when I go to uni, and at that time they're opening for people to try out the Google Ambassador program, then I applied for it. And I got into it. So as a student ambassador for 1 year, we get exposed to different people from across the continent. And then after that, now I got an internship. So the internship was the best thing that ever happened to me. I think we'll talk about that. But the transition, because it was more of a gradual transition in tech.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about the internship. So one, how much? Because this is now YouTube.
Yeah.
How much is YouTube paying you for your internship? And what year are you in university at this time?
So I think third year. Third year. So I get an internship at Google. So Google and YouTube is the same thing. There isn't that much of a difference. Boom, 150K first month. So you're this 21-year-old, I think I remember I was working at Collins, and you're getting so much money. You're wondering, what the hell is this? All this
You're being paid in USD?
No, this is Kenya shillings.
Kenya shillings.
Because they're already registered locally.
Okay.
So you get a 6-digit job. You don't even know what to do with the money. First things first, move out of home. Go to a different place. Lie to your parents that you've been given maybe housing. I remember this is not just about the 6 digits you're being given. It comes with, there used to be something called HOH, which is home office home. So you'd be picked at home in this Prado, this TX thing, take you to the office, drop you back. You're given food, you're given all the parts you can ever think about. So ideally,
and this is an internship.
This is internship, yeah.
Okay.
I remember this is just money for you too, because it's even written there. It's not salary. It's more of a stipend for you for transport and food.
150,000 shillings a month, which is a stipend.
Yeah, that's a stipend.
Okay,
yeah, that's fine. Let's try this thing.
Yeah,
it was really good money for sure.
So so you move out. What else are you doing with your 150,000? Like, if you could break it down for me, how much are you spending on what?
Making mistakes. Making mistakes means, your friends don't have money and you hang out together. So you go and drink. You go for these random road trips. You send some money home, but you don't want to tell your parents that you're making this amount of money. So just send kidogo money. Then maybe try to pay yourself for your school fee, pay your rent. But ideally, at that time, you're not even thinking about savings. You're just thinking about, let's spend this money. Paycheck on 25th, you continue. Paycheck on 25th, you just continue bowling. And
you keep at it. And they're picking you up in a Prado, dropping you. Did anyone think that, I don't know, at the time, were there, what are they called, Tenderpreneurs at that time? Did anyone think that you're in any, wash sort of business or anything like that?
No, I was not flashy. So I'm just with my friends and my boys. We two, up to this day, they're still my friends.
Yeah.
So there's nothing that it's happening out there. So it's just money and making mistakes.
Okay. So what happens after that? What happens after I guess after you finish, or what happens at the end of the internship? Is it a year long? Is it 2 years?
Yeah. So for that year, you also travel a lot.
Okay.
And you get exposed to the best engineers in the world.
Okay.
You get exposed to the best marketers in the world. At that time, Google was the coolest company. And I think it still is one of the coolest companies in the world to work for. Look, you go to a room and everybody has gone to Stanford. Or maybe somebody's just from any Ivy League university, and they're the kind of guys you're working with. I remember my desk mate was like one of the guys who eventually became one of the top people in the country right now. And
at Google.
Yes. So today you're in Lagos, tomorrow you're in Joburg, tomorrow I remember being sent to, I think, Mozambique, a country that speaks Portuguese. But I remember, I think there's someone who just sees something in you and they give you an opportunity. So I met this mentor around that period of time, I think, saw the fire in me. Eventually went to work at MasterCard. Right now runs a very successful family business around, and something and a lot of people know. And I remember him giving this opportunity to try out things and continue. So at the same time, somebody saw something in me at Google, let me travel and just get exposed to different cultures. At the same time, somebody saw something in me and they moved me to YouTube. So I explore and just come up with new programs. At the same time, there used to be a payment platform called Beba Pay. They threw me into Beba Pay. So just let me explore everything I wanted to explore. I think that gives me the ability to kind of get exposed.
And all of this happens within that 1 year?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What happens when the year is done?
I remember that December, we went to Masai Mara, I think, for a trip. And then I came back home. And alas, the internship is over. So I need to go back to school. And I'm thinking, why should I go back to school? I've already been exposed. I'm having all this money.
Had you taken time off from finishing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you just concentrate over here.
Yeah.
So you take some time off and go back to uni. Yeah.
So you go back to university to finish your last year now?
Yeah, finish.
Try and finish.
Yeah, and then come back at Google now again.
Okay. Yeah. So December you go back to school January to try and finish your last year of university. When do you go back to Google?
The next year.
The next year. So for that year you finish.
Around I think after 14 months I'm back.
Okay, and so for that year you finish.
I didn't finish.
You didn't finish. What happened?
Yeah. I go back to Google now because there's another opportunity for me to go back there.
Okay, but what happens within the 14 months? You say
I'm
go back to Google.
I'm still in school, but now there's another opportunity.
Also, for 14 months you're in school.
Yeah.
So you do
on and off. Yeah. So
two semesters.
So you see, in uni you don't have to because you select the units you want to do, right?
Yeah.
So at times you might do 3 semesters
6,
and then So that's how I played around it.
Okay.
Then went back to.
And so how are you surviving within these 14 months before you go back to...
I'm living with my parents.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
How much do you have saved? How are you spending your money? And how are you surviving during that period?
I made mistakes, so I don't have enough money. So I have little runway, I think, for 4 months, if I remember well. So after that, I'm not able to pay my rent. I'm not able to live that life I was living before. I'm kind of trying to pay my school fee because I've told my parents I can't pay my school fee, So money, I deplete all my money.
Yeah.
At that time, a lot of people didn't understand what I was doing. And therefore, you're not getting these gigs ideally. So if, for example, you want to go to work for an agency, then they can't afford you. If you want to go to work in a media house, they can't afford you at that time because they're seeing this young boy, as much as they've achieved everything, they're not able to afford you at that time, right? And they don't really understand what you're doing. So that comes. But there's something I've forgotten. I remember at the same time, and this comes to a discussion about income in each and every country that we come from. You find the same role, same responsibility in Lagos is paid less than the person in Nairobi, and even less as the person in Joburg. So there's that. At the same time, you find you're interning in a company, say I'm at Google, somebody else is at Microsoft, but there's someone at Microsoft is making a little bit lesser than you are. So I think there are different kind of facets of how the income used to come through. So you also compare yourself to guys at Oracle here at the top of this building. We are still weird internships, we had peers working there. They used to make a certain amount of money. So at this point, you start reflecting and wondering, what did my peers do with their money, right? So some of them have saved, others are buying cars, others are with you at that point. But then for some reason, some of them were a bit older than I was, so I'm allowed to make mistakes.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I think there's that comparison. But fast forward to during that period of time, I think I relied on my parents a lot.
Yeah.
So just going back home, getting a normal stipend, but yeah, that's not your money. That's your parents' money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the second stint comes for you to Google. The second opportunity comes
Yeah,
up.
now this is just Google now. Google
And
search to be
Google,
specific.
right?
Yeah.
And you decide to take it. You decide to leave school and take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the rationale behind that?
Opportunities will always show up, and if you don't grab that opportunity, then you might not find another opportunity. So I go back there and I meet this amazing team that really took me in. And I remember just being thrown into deep waters to go and figure out what fish is there and what mineral you can mine there. And it was a great experience just going back to where you had left and started from.
So primarily, what was your job now?
So at Google at that time, I was in the product marketing team, which meant that you need to kind of understand your competitors. You also need to make sure that you understand your users and build products that are meant for the users. So give feedback to the engineers and the different teams, and so that they can improve their product and also localize some of these products. So plenty of products we worked on for millions of users across the continent with over 32 countries. At the same time, doing a lot of campaigns. I think I remember I took part in one of the first integrated marketing campaigns at Google, and also supporting other initiatives inside the organization. Yeah. So things like the Kenyan elections in 2017, which means you need to localize a lot of things. And again, the beauty of these big companies is you're able to kind of do a lot of things and explore. Yeah.
How much was their offer at that time?
Always the same amount.
It was about the same amount. So it wasn't there wasn't
not significant
much of an
change.
increment. Okay.
Yeah.
What about the work culture? I see these videos on TikTok and Instagram now around working for Google or working for any of these big tech companies, and they all seem very, I guess they're done by the Gen Zs, and they seem very chilled, very relaxed, and like nap rooms and all sorts of snacks and things available. I've been to the Google office here. I think that was in 2018, 2019. I didn't see that. But my question is, I guess, what was the culture like for you working there? Is it the same as what we see people saying, working at Google is like?
Look, there are different offices, there are different sizes, and then there are different countries and different roles. So an office in Nairobi, for example, wouldn't be similar to the one that is in London, for example. London would find maybe 3,000 people, presumably. Nairobi might find maybe 100 people. So the size of the office also differs. So, for example, in Nairobi, you come here and they've taken a floor. But if you go to a place like San Francisco, it's maybe an entire campus, So it's quite different.
Yeah.
Now, if you say you went to this office here and you found that those fancy things, so it just shows what the function of the office is. It's all about. But generally speaking, the culture is amazing. You get amazing people. You are allowed to travel a lot and go to these different offices where you find all these things happening.
Okay.
Yeah.
And at this time now, you're earning this. You said you're earning about the same amount of money. Are you being better with your money? And I'm using better as a word based on the fact that you said you made a lot of mistakes the first time.
Yeah.
So are you better now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. So what do you do? How you do? Do you move out again immediately, or what's your progression?
I think before I come back to Google, I'd already moved out again. Yeah.
Okay.
But this time now, I'm doing my own things. I'm getting some consulting gigs here and there. I'm making some. I have some income that's coming through for me. And so this time around, I decided, look, I'm not take a house by myself. I'm gonna co-share a house with my friend. So I'm immediately moving with one of my best friends. We stay together for the entire year, and we share our bills from water to the rent. At this time, and also.
And how much is that costing you per month in terms of now your bills?
So maybe 20,000-30,000. Yeah, but
in terms of
it's quite-
utilities.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's quite. So now that. So maybe up to 60 together, but
Yeah,
it's
but
a bit,
it's
it's
half.
a bit,
Yeah.
it's a bit lower. You also you reduce your drinking and going out and doing these travels. You also realize that, look, this is not my job. This is not my company. It's not my dad's company. So one day it's gonna go. So you start being a bit more frugal with your money. Yeah. Yeah.
So you start saving. Are you saving? Do you do any investing, or is just purely saving for a rainy day?
Just saving for a rainy day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. How long?
Because at that time, I'm not financially educated, I'd say.
Okay.
I'd met a couple of people that had done financial literacy, but this time I only understood the basics of money. And in fact, I remember with that friend of mine, it's called Derek Rono. With Derek, we started something around finance, actually. And so at this time, we decided, look, there's plenty of opportunity in tech and building products for I think the millennials and the young people. And so we decided to build a product around finance. So in doing our research, we now understand that money, so it's either you're making money, so it's only, remember, it's just about debit and credit. So money is coming in or going out. So when then this money comes in, it's going out in terms of maybe you're saving it, you're investing it, maybe you're doing payments and all that. So you start understanding the basics of the money cycle just the money cycle. So at this time, you now understand how to budget.
Right.
You know how to kind of save. So you start learning these things all the time. Yeah. So that during that period of time, we also try to build products in finance.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, how long are you then at Google? Do you get any? Do you get promoted, or do you get any other positions?
It's an entry level job. So what next? I decide it's time for me to try out, set up something. Remember, as I told you earlier on, I came from a very entrepreneurial
space. Yeah.
So my grandfather, my dad, all of them are very entrepreneurial. So I'm like, even during this period of time, I've tried out two things. One, I've tried to set up a startup that does payments for high schools. So the solution was people in high school do not have mobile money, but they still need to pay for something in the canteen. So that time M-Pesa is a bit expensive. So what do you do? Take cards and give them at the canteen to tap and pay. So you already have that solution that actually is working out. We are trying out with some of my friends. Then we move forward from now because tech has already moved. Let's try out and do maybe something called, I think they're called neobanks. So we try out a neobank because we got some knowledge that's going on. So as much as I was working at Google at that time, we're also doing this startup.
What's a neobank?
A neobank is a bank that doesn't have to have physical space. So it's virtual. Things like Loop in the country.
Okay.
Globally, there are things like Mondo, Revolut. So you can just plug and play and use your software. So ideally, it's a virtual bank.
And what would be I'm just trying to figure out at the time, what kind of legislation are you going around to be able to make this happen? Or are you taking advantage of the fact that there's no legislation around that? Because I know, putting up a bank is no small.
At that time, looking back, we were just ambitious boys trying to do the things we can. And we're seeing guys building things in across the world, and to be specific in Europe. And we think, look, there's an opportunity here. So let's try explore. So I think months later, there's this new product called Loop that comes into the market.
The NCBA
Loop, And whatever we're building with Rono and other friends like Alan is the same thing that came out as Loop. And they're like, yeah, dude, we're on the same, on the right trajectory. But I remember doing this thing on the side.
Yeah.
Remember my parents also doing things on the side, so I'm also trying to do things on the side.
Yeah.
So fast forward, I decided, look, this fintech thing is not working out. I think it's given me some.
And by fintech,
exposure.
you mean the stuff you're doing on the side?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Lipa card, they used to call it Lipa card actually. So Lipa card, we went with it, won a few awards, went to pitch to different people. I remember you're a kid, you don't know, you're just exploring and trying out new things. Then we now change and say, let's try, just build an application. Let's call it a neobank. And then loop happens, and we're doing other things. And like, this thing is not working out. Let's try other things. So that happens, and then I go back and say, let me try out things around data science. And so I decided to set up a data science institute. So where we'd get people from different backgrounds, from managers to engineers, want to understand and venture into data science. So I decided to become an entrepreneur full-time. So set up a data science school here. Grew up super fast. I remember I thought I'm going to expect maybe 5 students for the first session. Ended up getting 20.
What justification are you using to set up the data science school? And how are people believing that you are going to be able to, I guess, give them value for money and, educate them in this data science school? And have you left Google at this time?
Yes, I have now.
Okay, so how long then are you at Google? And then you're
another 1 year.
Another 1 year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I go set up this data science school, and I think the people just believed in me. And at that time, it was very data driven, honestly.
Are you a fast talker?
What do you mean?
Are you like fast? No, not like a speak fast, but are you like a wheeler dealer? Just people who can sell ice to an Eskimo, or water to a like. Do you have that kind of personality?
No? I can build things, but I don't know how to sell.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I can build a product, but I don't know how to sell it. I think it's a weakness because I don't even know how to bargain. So you can not only gonga.
Okay, anyway, sorry for interruption. So the data science.
So data science, so it's very data driven because at that time, right now, technology is gonna outpace education and legislation, which means we don't have universities offering data science. That's one. But at the same time, you find that organizations have so much data they're collecting, but they don't have human capital to deal with that. So connect both. So connect both. So because I was in the industry, and one of my co-founders was also in the industry, used to work at Oracle up here. I remember him telling me a story of him going to Botswana and selling a cool product from Oracle, and the bank, he still needs to go back to Botswana and teach and train people about data science. And I'm like, wait a minute. It just shows that there's a big disconnect between the industry and what people really need. So that's why we found ourselves setting up the data science school. Okay. So very data driven.
But you had founders.
Co-founders.
You had
a co-founder here.
Okay.
So this co-founder comes through, is well off in terms of like data science and all that. So we set up Zuka Data Science, and the solution was very simple. Let guys come 3 times a week. Let them come with their data. We're not going to give you exams, but we're going to upskill you from point A to point Z, and put a price tag onto it. And I remember that was the first time ever in my life to make money from a proper business. Forget about the ones that I was doing with my parents. So I realized, look, people can actually buy into it. And we did a small advertisement, spent, I think, $50. I think at that time, Twitter was big. Spent $50 on doing the marketing campaign, talked to a couple of friends. And then we had a class of 20 within maybe 2 months.
And how much were these? How much did it cost to take part in this?
45,000 Kenya shillings.
For the
8-week program.
8-week program. So
remember, we don't have infrastructure. So we've gone to Nairobi Garage here, which is a co-working space. We've taken a space. We're taking in the evenings, 2 hours 3 times a week. So 6 hours for guests to come and learn. And that's it. So the costs are very low in terms of setting up. So you don't have to buy furniture. So for me now, I realize that now that's why I'm becoming an entrepreneur.
Are you and your co-founder the ones doing the training or the upskilling?
So I'm more the program management. Now he is actually coming in class every day and teaching people. And these guys are coming from blue chips, most of them. But initially we thought maybe recent graduates are going to come, but it was a mix of guys in the industry trying to transition to new jobs, or guys who just want to learn data science, or maybe just want to kind of maybe move departments.
Okay. How successful does the school become?
It's very successful, I'd say, because people are paying, and then even before we finish the first cohort, guys are asking for the next cohort, which meant that we modify, quickly iterate what we had, and move it from 8-week program to a 20-week program, and triple the amount of money you're charging.
Okay.
And guys still came. Yeah.
All right. So how much money? How long does the school last, and how much money do you make in? Or is the school still there now?
No, it's not there. COVID happened.
Okay.
So remember, we are growing super fast. We don't have resources. So we don't have any investment. So we're actually plowing back the little money we're making to pay our instructors. So now from 1 instructor, we now have 4 instructors.
Okay.
So the money that comes in, you try to pay.
It's
these people,
reinvestment back
so
into
reinvesting,
the-
so plowing
right.
back so that we can create value. Then at that point, I think we moved from the space at Nairobi Garage and moved to another campus in Kilimani, Galana Plaza, where Africa's Talking is. They used to have a space somewhere there. So we moved there, and I think COVID decides to come.
COVID decides to come.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go too far there, because there's a question I wanted to ask you about Google and from your perspective.
Yeah.
And this is just something I've always wanted to find out. Why is it, or what's the justification behind the AdSense payments on YouTube for African content creators? And maybe even, let me speak for a specific region, for Kenyan content creators, and the fact that we are paid less than people. I don't know if we're paid less than people in like West Africa. I don't know if we're paid. I know we have paid less for sure than people in the US and in Europe. What's the justification that? Because I've seen that even if you have an audience from US or UK, they still pay you at these lower rates. Yeah.
Okay, so from your perspective, what do you think happens?
From my perspective, I think, let me not say what my perspective is.
You should say that. I'm going to give you my perspective. But look, it's very basic. This is math.
Yeah.
Looking at the economies and how they work. So do you understand how Google AdSense and AdWord work?
Cost per mile.
So-
per thousand listens, views.
No, that's a bit deeper.
That's okay.
Yeah, so on the very high level is
Yeah.
Google, there's YouTube, there's Google. So from the display ads to the video ads that exist. So they're in between here.
Yeah.
So in between here, then money needs to come. So advertisers come and bring money to the platform.
Yeah.
Then because the audience is here, that's what they're doing. Then the guys who are creating content, because they're here, maybe the guys who own those assets get some money.
Yeah.
Now, if you go to, and the way it works is people use this bidding platform. So the highest bidder gets to be seen more.
Right,
And,
right,
so,
right.
And all those things. Now, if you go to the US and someone is spending $1, if you come to the country, maybe it's 5 shillings. Maybe if I'm bidding higher because the economy is higher and the cost of living is higher, so you're going to find that there's more money being spent in maybe the US, in a bigger economy. In Kenya, it's less money.
Yeah.
So that's it. So if you've got maybe more viewers in the US, you find that you've got more money. If you've got fewer viewers in, let's say maybe, you can have 1,000 viewers in Nairobi and 1,000 viewers in New York, which means the person in New York is going to make more money than you do because of the advertisers that are placing the amount of money there. Because of biddings,
So essentially, it's because we have a smaller brands and advertising market, then it's less money there, and therefore content creators. So if there were more companies pumping in more money into YouTube or Google ads, then the content creators or people creating content will be able to make more money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
if let's say if the bids were higher, that means that these guys are making more money.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
So that's why you find someone with 1,000 maybe. But you see, people also don't understand when it comes to content creation, it's about the followers. It's not about the likes, it's not about the share, it's about the engagement. So you might find maybe I have 20 million views, but then they're only watching 2 seconds of my video. But somebody else has maybe 100,000 views, but they're watching maybe 5 minutes. So it's totally different. And also the way you place the placements of the ads. So it's a game of, trying to understand the basics of all that.
Okay, anyway. So in this period now, because you had left Google, you're now setting up this entrepreneurial school, the data science school. How are you surviving at that point? Are you still living with your friend in the, in the space that you're sort of co-living in or living in together? And how are you paying your bills? Because if a lot of your money is being reinvested back into the school between then and COVID, what's life like at that point?
So you also cut the costs as much as you can. So move to even a smaller space, pay less rent.
Okay.
So my friend got an opportunity in a different part of the city, so he had to kind of move that side and leave that side. So we leave that house and everybody goes different directions, but also both of us cut our costs, our spend as much as we could. Now we're becoming more mature and we're seeing what the value of money is.
Yeah.
So cut your costs from, you stop going out a lot, you stop having these extra expenses. So you just focused on building this product for it to work. Yeah.
Right.
But at the same time also getting some cushion, just a little bit. If anything goes south, I think your parents can always cushion you in a way.
Yeah. So that's what that period is like.
I think for me, it's another lesson that I picked up about life. And look, I realized that people like Bill Gates and Zuckerberg and people like Steve Jobs, and even Elon Musk that we used to look up to, they came from backgrounds where they were, I'd say, they could get cushioned. So someone like Zuckerberg at 12, the dad got him a professor to teach him programming. It meant that the risk level becomes even higher. So some of us who've got parents living in the city, the risk also becomes a bit high because what's the worst that could happen? Go back home, you see. But a lot of people don't have that opportunity to go back home. So there's that.
Yeah, so being an entrepreneur is for the middle class.
In my opinion, in a way, you get more. Yeah,
you have more of a leeway to sort of.
Yeah,
if you fail, it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that's how it works. So for me, also at the same time, I'm taking a risk because I don't have so much responsibility, and if anything goes south, I can always go back home to get some help. But I'm praying that everything works out at that time. Yeah.
But at that point, at no point are you okay. So you're living a minimalized lifestyle. But would you categorize at any point in time like you're struggling? Would you categorize any point in time like you're not able to meet a specific bill, or you're not able to feed yourself or anything like that? Did any of that happen?
No,
it doesn't happen.
And remember, I also had some savings from the previous gig.
Yeah. Okay. So then you get into so COVID happens.
Yeah.
How do you guys survive? Well, the company doesn't survive COVID, but how do you guys survive COVID? Personally, how do you survive COVID?
So for COVID at Zuka, what happened was, remember, we just grew up super fast, right?
Yeah.
And so we've got to pay for the space. We need to pay instructors. We need to pay a lot of things. And remember, at that time, we're just pushing the much we can. Looking forward to maybe getting extra investors at some point after building up a proper maybe product.
A viable product, yeah.
Yeah, I remember we got back into an incubation program, I think, for 90 days or so. But then COVID still came. But look, we are pegging our program on numbers, right? So at that time, we knew there's a high dropout rate of up to 90% on online programs. But then if you go to a proper program, the dropout rate becomes significantly lower. Which means at Zuka, we're doing a blended program, which means come to class maybe 3 times a week instead of coming full time, but they're going to give you some coursework to go home with. Now, with that happening, it meant that we need to have people come to class physically for them to do all these things. And so because our strength was having people connect and have industry-driven programs, it meant that they can't come into class. And then people are not spending enough money. Their spending power has gone down because
everyone's holding their money.
Because everybody's holding their money, which means that you're not able to continue with it.
Yeah.
Then you can't even bring people because COVID had made sure that people cannot interact in class. It goes like that.
Spacing and all those things, yeah.
So during that period of time, I go back home.
How difficult was it to decide with your co-founders and be like, okay, we have to close this down?
It was inevitable for sure.
No, I mean, inevitable, but I mean, like the conversation and the reality of course, there's the logic sense of it, of like, this thing is not working. But I guess the emotional, psychological, other elements that you're dealing with the fact that you're closing a business, not because it's not a successful or viable product, but because the circumstances now,
It was really, really extremely hard for us to let it go.
Yeah.
It was really, I think it took a toll on us because this is our baby, and if a baby dies prematurely, I feel really, really bad.
Yeah. And in retrospect, would you have saved more money if you had sent people home earlier? Like if you had made the decision, the minute COVID hit, and you're like, "Yep, this is not gonna work. We're done." Do you think would you have been able to save a bit of money, or?
I don't think so, because we're not saving money. We're actually plowing back the money into the organization. Which also brings another aspect about money. Where, look, some of us, when our parents are paying school fee, they'd rather pay in bits, maybe every month, a little money. So same thing we experienced. So people are spending money in bits. So you won't find, maybe very few people will come and pay, boom, get 100% paycheck. Unless you're an organization paying for your students, then it was a bit hard. So for us, it was like, so the little money that's coming in, let's make it as sustainable as possible.
Okay. So you moved back home.
I think I remember I went back home.
For a while. What was that like?
Going back home?
Yeah.
So just reset and go chill with your parents and then your siblings, and then at that time, try to see if there's some opportunities you can get.
Do you feel at any point like you failed?
At that time?
Yeah.
Now I'm kind of disappointed because I'm going back to my parents and I'm not able to live by myself. And it's because of the risks I did. So if, for example, maybe if I went, I was still at Google, probably they'll still have money or they'll still continue there.
Yeah.
So I think there was that, like, what am I doing now? As in, what's happening? So there's plenty of questioning that you have to put in place. And I learned a lot in terms of you need to always have a plan B. And I think that's I found myself getting back into employment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how quickly does it take you for you to get back into the groove of things and like get your mind out of this disappointment cycle to be like, okay, now I need to figure out, what happens next. And the reason why I'm asking that actually is I remember when I was contemplating moving out and looking at when I was leaving my mom's house, and I was like, I don't know if I have enough money to do this. I don't know if I'm going to be able to sustain myself, the high risk. And I remember talking to a cousin of mine who told me, the thing is, even if you do move back home, even if things don't work out and you move back home, it doesn't take away from the lessons and the things that you learn once you move out. It's not gonna set you back in that sense. And I remember that made me a little bit more, I think, comfortable, like socially, to be like, you know what, okay, fine, let me take this risk. Let me see what happens. If I have to move back home, then so be it. But I remember it was also very what's the word, like utopic, in the sense that I haven't had to move back home. I haven't dealt with that reality, but I'm just wondering, like how long it would take me to get out of that feeling of, oh gosh, like I'm back here. My life was supposed to be like this and not, sort of walk back here. Yeah.
Look, I think I remember having that conversation with myself, and I remember having a chat again with a friend of mine and looking at the graph of life. So we call the graph of life is because time versus income. So if, for example, you're getting employed and you're getting maybe a salary of 200,000, boom, 200,000, continue for maybe 1 year, 2 years, maybe you're going to increase maybe by 10%, 5%, not so much, unless you move companies, unless things change a lot. At the same time, there's this guy who is doing their business, and so they're growing slowly, and their growth is going to continue upwards.
Oh, we're good.
Yeah, but then at the same time, it just gives you some confidence. Like, look, at the end of it, the journey is long. It's a marathon and not a sprint. So let's continue. And so I think for me, I was looking at life as a marathon and not a sprint.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know how my graph is going to grow.
Okay.
In that direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you start looking for a job.
Yes, so I'm doing some gigs here and there, and then it's someone we're building a product for them, and they allow me to go to Zambia. So during COVID time, we go to Zambia and we start building a product for women and the e-commerce system in Lusaka. So I go there, spend some time. When I'm there, I think I'd made some relationships with the guys that run Mdundo. Mdundo is one of the most successful actually companies in Kenya. It's one of the few tech startups that has managed to go public. And so at that time is when Mdundo was going public. And so the CEO reached out to me. I think we used to have chats here and there, and then I go and join Mdundo. And we start building products with him. I stay there for a while. And then still during COVID time.
So you joined Mdundo during COVID time?
Yeah, I did, yeah. So I joined Mdundo. So this time I've accepted my fate. I'm going back to employment for a while just to make sure that I'm back on my feet. So I go back there and I spend some time there, and then an opportunity comes again during COVID. An opportunity comes at TikTok, and I joined TikTok, and I'm like, let's try this thing. Yeah.
Okay. And when you're joining Mdundo now, what are you thinking about in terms of your salary negotiation now? Like, what are the things that you're trying to? Do you have like a minimum amount of money? You're like, you have to pay me at least X amount, and I'm not taking anything lower than that.
I'm thinking it's COVID time.
Yeah.
People are being laid off left, right, center.
Yeah.
And I'm among the very few people that are getting an opportunity to work in a product company that I really love. So why not? So I took it because I really needed to continue working and gain my skills, and also make sure that I have money that's coming in.
Yeah. So and how long do you then stay in the house? How long do you stay with your mom or back with your family before you move out again? And how much are you thinking that you need to have in terms of a cushion and a reserve to be like, okay, once I hit X amount, then now I can move out so that I can be able to sustain my life if I get another curveball.
No, I decided to leave immediately.
Immediately?
Yeah.
Like immediately you get the job, you're like,
Boom.
I'm out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even before, I think just before Mdundo, I left, and then I went to get a job. I went to look for a house, and I got it. And so I remember just driving around looking for houses, and then I got one of my friends, I think was living in a certain place, and then I met her there, and I decided to take the house there, and then so I moved out to an empty house.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was your thinking at that time? Like, because I'm assuming I mean, if not just, but if you had to move back home, because you won't be able, you aren't going to be able to sustain a certain life, did you not feel like it was a bit risky, like it was a bit quick, or?
I'm probably a risk taker.
Yeah.
But it was like, look, life has to continue.
Yeah.
And remember, you need your space where you can actually do your things. A space where you can come anytime you want to. A space where you can set up your corner where you can build your things. A place that's near work. So because of convenience, you need to get a house. So my thinking was like, look, let me move out. Let me get my space again.
Okay.
I'm getting back to my feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. And at TikTok, you get in as a product manager.
Not really. So at Mdundo, I was the head of product and data.
Okay.
And then leaving Mdundo to TikTok was a bit different because TikTok was still young at that time, right? In my opinion.
Here. Or even globally, worldwide, right? Okay.
So at that time when Aziad trended and people knew about this app, and I think at that time, TikTok was growing super fast in terms of the audiences and the content that was being created there. People thought it's just a dance app, but then I sat down and looked at it and realized, look, there's never been such a big opportunity when you're building products for millions. And so I felt like the best thing for me to do is try join TikTok. But this time, I'm not joining as a product manager. I'm joining to do everything. So from creator management to partner management to advising on how the product is going to look like, brainstorming a lot, doing analytics. So you got there because it's a startup, in quotes. So do everything.
So okay, I have two questions around TikTok. One is, what do you think, I guess in your experience in working at TikTok, what do you think makes it stand apart from Instagram? Like, why has its growth been so viral? And two, how does TikTok's algorithm work? Because I think off of the different people that I've talked to and different content creators, that's the one space where they're like, I never really know how my video or my content is going to do. I can do something today and I get millions. I do something tomorrow, it's a pretty similar thing, and I don't get the same amount of reach or views.
I think it's, if you look at it in a bigger scale of things, one, there's a time when TV was the biggest thing. There's a time when radio was the biggest thing. Then there's a time the internet became now the shit, right? And then after a while, we had people like Yahoo and Google in the late 90s and Amazon start doing some work. In 2006, we have got Facebook that comes in and people are there. The internet is a bit expensive for everybody across the world because the infrastructure is still being set up over time. Then we go to the era of Instagram. So people have moved from just text to now images and photos. The internet and infrastructure is becoming more and more available. There's development in terms of 4G, 5G, faster. And also users are growing more and more. Then we go to the generation of the Vines, so short video. Before the Vines, I think we had YouTube. So people could consume YouTube, not in big numbers. And at that time, people were consuming YouTube from, say, their computers. And maybe mostly computers, actually.
Yeah, and laptops.
And then technology is still growing. And now people can access mobile phones. They are bigger, better. Over time, you see things like Snapchat come in play and it goes super fast. And then, boom, TikTok comes through because there are more phones that are available. Technology is advanced because AI and machine learning are better. There are more humans across the world. And again, the concentration span has reduced because there's a lot of content that's coming in. So TikTok comes with short video, entertaining, shareable. It's everywhere. And then it wins people's hearts because, in my opinion, I feel like TikTok is an open source platform an open source Netflix, in my opinion. Which means is you allow creators to showcase themselves and entertain people in one app, very short. So I think that's how it made it a bit easier because everybody at TikTok is a creator. And with being a creator and on the platform, then why not consume? Now, in terms of, I think that's historically speaking how TikTok managed to be at the top. I think it was just because of time and a lot of coincidences that were happening in terms of technology, COVID happening, and also, I think, spending power on the population of the world. Now, if you look at the algorithm, I wouldn't comment much on that, but it just goes to the basics of demand and supply. So TikTok gives people what they want. And this is globally known. When I think the CEO was being grilled by the US government, he mentioned the same thing. So you're given what you actually like. So the more you like something, the more you engage with it, then the more it's fed on you. And I think that's the power of AI that actually TikTok has. So in my opinion, I feel the fact that all these things came together, but the AI is quite something. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'd say the recommendation engine, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The second question I wanted to ask you was around, I guess, the work that you did at Mdundo, which is essentially product management. And I feel like product management is well, maybe not new, but a nuanced career path that sort of come up, especially in our market. And there's a lot of people who still don't really understand what product management is. And the role that they play and the important role that they ought to play in the sort of ecosystem, the ecosystem within organizations. And I also know that in other developed markets, product managers make some really, really good money. What's it like here right now as a product manager? Like what amount of money is someone expected to make? And what are the skills that are required for someone to be a good product manager?
I think the first skill that is that you need to have as a product manager, you need to be an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur sees opportunities and builds solutions for them. So that's purely what product manager is. So it's a new concept because it's in technology. You need to kind of own a product. So some product managers are called product owners, whereby you find opportunities and try to build them. For you to build that opportunity, you need to understand data. You need to understand what does the quantitative mean when you do translate it to the qualitatives. You also need to understand the solutions themselves, the technology. So if, let's say, you're building a solution for mobile, you need to understand how do mobile phones work? How does building an iOS or maybe Android app look like? Just need to understand things like user experience, user interfaces. You need to understand how you can market. So the entire scope, or the entire life cycle of product, something that you need to know for you to become a product manager. You'll never be taught that in school. You need to figure out when you're in the industry.
Yeah.
And so in terms of making money as a product manager, it varies, honestly, based on the company that you're working for. And if it's a startup, of course, people make less money as compared to an established company.
Give me some figures.
Some people I know earn in the millions Kenyan shillings because they're product managers.
Here, in
this
Kenya?
market, yeah. The guys who make quite a fortune, maybe 10K USD upwards there.
What kind of company would that be?
The Microsofts and the Googles and the Facebooks of this world make that amount of money. At the same time, you've got some startups that are making a lot of money and they're paying people
really good
world class, another world level amounts of money. So they're well-funded startups that are giving people good money. The other tier is people in the banking industry, telcos, cybersecurity, and generally in tech are making good money as product managers. Setups are right now, you find someone doing each and everything at the same time. So you might find someone doing almost marketing, sales, products, everything together. But the higher you get specialized and the company you work for, the higher amount of money coming for you. At the same time, I think salaries are something that you never understand because, as you say, they sell these products is that people just don't talk about money a lot of times and the income they make. But I'd say from entry level around 50, 100K to the millions of money. Yeah.
Depending on where you are.
Where you are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So you work at TikTok for some time.
Yeah.
A year and a bit, if I'm not wrong.
Sorry?
At TikTok.
Yeah.
You work at TikTok for a year and a bit.
No, 3 years.
3 years.
Almost 3 years, yeah.
3 years. Okay. What's that experience like? And
for almost 3 years at TikTok was super fast growth. Look,
and is your salary growing incrementally to the growth of the company?
No, it's not. It's not. And not just at TikTok. Globally right now, salaries are not going up because of the economics. I think people almost mentioned that there was a depression not so long ago.
Yeah.
So a lot of companies were laying off people.
Yeah.
A lot of companies were reducing their expenses. Up to today, as we speak, a lot of companies are doing the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 years at TikTok, right? What are you doing with your money during those 3 years? Yeah. At that time.
TikTok is not one of the best paying organizations as it sounds or as it looks.
As one would think.
Yeah. Because again, basically speaking, it was a startup when a lot of us were joining. And therefore, at that time, a lot of people are not spending money. And so it's a startup, quote unquote, at that time.
If you had to give me a percentage comparison to what you were making at Google.
I will not. I want to do that comparison, but this time I'm a bit wiser. I know what I'm getting myself into. I know why I'm here. I know the amount of time I want to spend at this organization, and I can see where the direction is going on there. So for me, going back at TikTok is in fact, the person who hired me is because they saw my entrepreneurial spirit and also my past experiences. So I became, in my opinion, an internal entrepreneur. I think they're called entrepreneurs. So just drive the much you can. And so we joined, I think we were only 2 in the country for quite some time before we expanded. And so tried to do everything that you could. But this time you're very, very frugal with yourself. So you know what pensions mean, you know what savings are, you now know what a circle is, you now understand I need to go back to entrepreneurship at some point. You know you need to get some side hustles here and there. So right now you are more mature. You've gone through COVID, you've gone through the best in life, you've gone through everything, a startup and everything. So right now you're very, very intentional with how you do your things. So I think now you start doing the budgets properly. You start thinking of how will I'm sure I want to be in this organization forever, but by the time I'm leaving here, I'm looking at there's money as capital, but there's also human capital, and there's also, I think, the networks are building and a lot of confidence. So you're preparing yourself to leave the organization. And I think there's something also called quiet quitting, whereby you feel like, I need to leave this organization. And so I start preparing myself for the future. And therefore, you know that you've built so many networks, so you're going to go back to those networks because they're going to help you out. You know, you've got some little money here and there, you need to kind of prepare yourself. And also put small investments. And I think that goes to the next phase of my life about going back to entrepreneurship as someone in sports.
And that's where you're at now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if I tell me, I know you've told me you're not giving me your amount, percentage of money you're making, but now in terms of like how much you're saving or how much you're putting aside, are you putting aside 50% of your salary, 60% of your salary, to try and sort of get you ready for departure?
First of all, with the retirement plan you come up with, you're saving maybe up to 20% of that amount of money. So it's going there.
Okay.
At the same time, savings come in terms of you're not spending a lot of money on, say, transport, fuel, and all that, because that money is you're investing it somewhere else. And also means that you're able to do side gigs here and there because there's a lot of time in your hands, so you're able to get some extra amount of money.
And when you say side gigs, are you referring to like consulting stuff that you do and things like that? And how much do you charge people for things like that? And how did you even figure out what rate you're going to charge people for your time when you're consulting for them?
Industry rates, 1. Then 2, just knowing how to bill. From working with people, you can now understand what a rate card is. You can understand what it means to giving someone your time. And also, I think it's more of the industry exposure, because you don't expect to charge a corporate the same way you're charging an individual.
Okay. Okay. So you've put aside money, you're now getting into an entrepreneurial space, and you now decide you're going to do what you're doing now, which is the Noga Sports. What's the maybe let me ask, financially speaking, what's the hope? What are you hoping to try and achieve through Noga Sports for your own personal finances, not so much as business and what it can potentially do?
Look, I've invested a lot of money, from reducing my savings to spending on Noga, from getting my side gigs to investing on Noga, to using my human networks to invest on Noga, and also a lot of goodwill from people to invest in that organization. So with the past experiences of starting up a product and not taking it to market, with the financial literacy app, the payment card, in addition to being employed at a very global level, that's at the top of the world at Google, to getting an opportunity at a fast-growing local startup, to at the same time also working at a fast-growing platform like TikTok, means that it prepares you for the next phase of life, which has taken me, I'd say, 9 years to get to where we're right now. So Noga growing as fast as is doing right now, it's not because of the money I have, it's because of the experiences and the people I've met.
Okay.
And what makes me know it's the best investment, it's because of, again, my background and also seeing the opportunity. So traveling a lot and getting access to data is very key. And getting access to people and understanding the market gives me hope that at the end of it, I'm going to recoup my investment. I know it's not a traditional way of doing investments, but I think that's where it is.
Okay. Yeah. When you were starting out your career, I guess because you've said you've been it's almost been a decade essentially of work that you've put in. Work, do you feel like you are, financially speaking, do you feel like you are where you thought you'd be in 10 years?
Not really. First of all, I never thought about money when I was starting off. I was just just doing it. continue with life. And I didn't have something in mind pegged around money until 4 years ago, just before COVID. Yeah.
And what then I guess has been your target? I guess whatever it is that you developed 4 years ago, what's been the ambition or the thing that you're working towards?
To be very self-sustaining, which means that I have an income that's constant, which means I'm building things around generational wealth, which means that I'm diversifying my income, which means I know the value of my time. So I know my 30 minutes is no longer worth maybe $50. It's worth maybe $500,000, for example. So I think that has given me an opportunity to kind of understand who I am as a person. Yeah. And also going through financial literacy classes. One of my very good friends runs a financial literacy platform. So I remember sitting down with him and telling me things around the financial, I'd say, personalities. Also trying to understand, sitting in class and trying to understand what do you do with money and what the future holds in money. You know, yeah.
Okay. So you've talked about wanting to build, generational wealth and things like that being a big thing that came for you 3 years ago. So is that how Noga then comes about? Is Noga a part of that? Noga Sports, is Noga a part of that?
No, look, there's something I think I forgot. Growing up, I grew up in a very entrepreneurial background. So for me, employment was out of I think just trying to see to learn and grow, I understand. So even working at Google, I knew I'm here because I need to grow myself and to understand what the world is. And I believe that education never gives us that opportunity to be in the industry. So learning on the job is something that's very key. Fast forward to how I grew up, I knew that for me to make a lot of money, to be reliable and not going through the shit that we went through after my dad died, I knew I needed to be very, very frugal with money and also make a lot of it. So being in tech, and I think one of the best places for people to work at, and a lot of money being poured there, and it's growing super fast, I think helped a lot in terms of shaping what I am at right now. But I think going back to Noga, so Noga is me. Noga means thrive.
It's fine.
In Swahili. So Noga is a Swahili word for thrive, or rather flourish.
Yeah.
And so what Noga is saying is me is that we're using all my experiences from tech, understanding how to build products for tech, to data, having worked with data science and worked in big companies that are always around data, to media, working in media, so from Google to YouTube and TikTok recently. So I have the best mix to go into whatever industry I want to. So globally right now, sports is growing super fast. There is a lot of changes in terms of football. How football is the biggest sport in the world. So from people like Cristiano going to Saudi Arabia and Messi at the peak of their career going to
the States.
Sports has been growing at 8% annually in Africa alone. You know, from people like Red Bull and people like Formula One and basketball, there's a lot of investment that's being put in infrastructure, and it's one of the fastest growing forms of entertainment. When you go back to Africa, and I think I was lucky enough to work on sports in Africa at TikTok, and so I kind of understood the opportunities that are there, and I think that's why I'm in sports right now. Yeah.
Okay. Last question, because you talked about, I guess, through the experience that you had as a family, to be frugal, and you need to make a lot of money. Keeping that in mind, what's the worst money decision you've made?
There's so many.
The worst one.
The worst one.
Yeah. Keeping that in mind, the fact that you knew you need to be frugal, and the fact that you knew you need to make a lot of money.
Not saving in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I procrastinated opening a money markets account. I procrastinated opening a Circle account. I feel like at the point where I need a lot of money at once, I'd have gone to my Circle to maybe get a loan.
Yeah.
Or if I want to withdraw my money from the money markets, I would have gotten some money. So that thing that's in my opinion, the biggest.
And when you say not opening it early, I mean, how long now have you had those accounts for? When did
I
you?
think maybe 2 to 3 years. 2-3 years, I think.
Yeah.
But something else you also forget is that most of us, especially firstborns and people come from certain types of family, we tend to have a lot of black tax. Yeah, black tax is something that I think you need to understand how to manage it. Because if you don't manage it in time, it's going to mess you up. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. That's been us. I've really enjoyed this conversation. I think learned a couple of things and see a few things differently. I hope you enjoyed it too. Please like, comment, share. Tell us who you want to see next. If you have other questions for Victor, please put them in the chat. We'll make sure that he addresses them. Until the next episode, we'll see you then.
Thank you.